me tell you something that few people truly understand. Your mind will never function at its peak if your body is stuck in a state of stagnation. The very first thing Tony Robbins does each day to elevate his mind is not to read a book or reach for his phone. No, he starts with his body, because he knows that the gateway to a powerful brain is a fully awakened physiology. Each morning, he engages in movement that jolts his nervous system to life. He doesn't wait for inspiration to strike. He creates it through motion. Whether it's bouncing on a mini trampoline, doing deep breathing exercises, or diving into a cold plunge, he's sending a signal to his brain that it's time to wake up, time to perform, time to lead. That deliberate, physical ritual becomes the ignition switch for mental clarity and heightened awareness. It's no coincidence that when we feel stuck, we also feel sluggish. And when we move, our thinking shifts. Blood flows, oxygen surges, and suddenly our problems look different, smaller, more manageable. You see, the body is not separate from the mind. It is the tool through which we awaken the mind. That's why Tony doesn't begin his day reacting to the world. He begins by commanding his internal world first. Through intentional movement, he taps into energy reserves that most people never access because they wait for their feelings to change before they act. But he acts, and the feelings follow. There is genius in that. Because it's not just energy he's cultivating, it's certainty. When you begin your day with that level of command over your body, you're telling your subconscious that you're in control. You are not merely a reactor, you are a creator. And creators don't wait for the conditions to be right, they make the conditions right by how they show up. If you want a sharp mind, start with a sharp body. Because when your blood is circulating and your breath is deep, your brain isn't just awake, it's alive with purpose, direction, and power. This is where high performance begins, not in the intellect, but in the decision to move with intention. Once the body's been awakened and energy has been summoned, the next step is just as critical, directing that energy with precision. Tony Robbins doesn't leave his mind to wander in the chaos of the world the moment he opens his eyes. No, he takes control. He engages in what he calls priming, a deliberate daily ritual that trains the mind where to focus. Because the truth is this: whatever you consistently focus on, you move toward. Focus is the steering wheel of the mind, and Tony turns that wheel with intention every single morning. This practice is not complex, but it is profound. It begins with breath, intentional and deep. As he breathes, he's not just feeding oxygen to the body, he's quieting the noise, centering the mind, aligning with a higher purpose. Then, in that stillness, he begins to flood his mind with thoughts of gratitude. Not vague or abstract, but specific and real. He sees the faces of loved ones. He feels the warmth of a moment, the impact of a lesson, the joy of something often overlooked. And why does he do this? Because a mind steeped in gratitude cannot simultaneously be lost in fear. It cannot dwell in anger. It cannot spiral into confusion. Gratitude grounds the mind in what is true, and from that foundation, greatness can be built. But he doesn't stop there. Tony goes further. He visualizes. He sees with absolute clarity the outcomes he's working toward. Goals not as distant dreams, but as if they are already realized. He experiences them with all his senses, calling them into the present moment. He visualizes himself not just succeeding, but serving, giving, impacting, transforming lives. That image becomes a blueprint, and the brain begins to organize around it. The subconscious mind, the most powerful part of your mental machinery, starts to search for ways to fulfill what it has been shown. This is not fantasy, this is training. Just as an athlete trains the body, Tony trains the mind. And each day he repeats this practice, he deepens the mental grooves that direct his thoughts, his emotions, and ultimately his results. Focus is not a gift, it is a skill. And when you master where your attention goes, you master where your life flows. Now let me share with you a secret so simple, so easily overlooked, and yet so profoundly powerful, it can transform the very chemistry of your brain. Tony Robbins practices this every single day. not as a task or a duty, but as a way of life. He deliberately, consciously cultivates gratitude, not as a fleeting feeling, but as a deliberate act of mental mastery. Why? Because gratitude is one of the most potent forces you can summon to elevate the mind. You see, when you focus on what's missing, what's wrong, what could go wrong, you trigger the brain's primal defense systems. You narrow your vision. Your thoughts become reactive, your emotions anxious. But when you choose intentionally to focus on what's right, what you already have, what you've already become, what you've already been blessed with, you activate a different part of your mind entirely. The brain lights up in new ways. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine begin to flow. The mind shifts out of survival and into creation. Tony takes this seriously. Every morning, as part of his priming, he devotes time to feel, not just think about, but feel 3 things he's deeply grateful for. Often he doesn't choose the big wins or grand achievements. He picks the small moments. A smile from his wife, the sound of the ocean, the strength in his body. And in doing so, he rewires his emotional state. He builds mental armor that negativity cannot penetrate. Gratitude is not passive, it is active. It's the discipline of training your brain to search for what is good, to magnify what is working, to reinforce the truth that life is not something happening to you, but something happening for you. And that truth, when felt consistently, does something incredible. It creates peace, a stillness that sharpens your perception, a quiet confidence that lets you lead, decide, and act without the noise of fear or lack. It's easy to chase success and forget the power of appreciation. But the mind that appreciates, that genuinely celebrates the present, is the mind that creates more to be grateful for. It becomes a magnet for progress, for joy, and for clarity. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a foundation. And from that foundation, all great thinking begins. Once the mind has been tuned through gratitude, there is another vital step Tony Robbins takes every morning. A step that turns intention into direction, and direction into destiny. He visualizes, but not in a vague or hopeful way. He does it with purpose, with emotion, with full presence. He sees the outcomes he desires as if they are already real, already here, because the mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced. And when you visualize with clarity and feeling, you lay down tracks in the brain that guide your actions without resistance. Tony doesn't merely picture himself winning, he sees himself giving, serving, building something that leaves a mark. He visualizes contribution because he understands that the real power of success comes not from accumulation, but from impact. He steps into the scene, imagines how it feels, how it looks, how others respond. He breathes life into that moment and allows it to shape his identity. And when you do that, when you see yourself in alignment with the highest version of who you can be, your choices begin to match that vision. Your thoughts rise to meet it. Your behavior evolves to support it. This is more than daydreaming, it is strategic creation. The world responds not to your wishes, but to your standards. And your standards are built brick by brick in your mind. That's why Tony makes visualization a non-negotiable part of his morning. Because when you start the day already aligned with your mission, already seeing the outcome clearly, confusion disappears. Doubt loses its grip. The day no longer happens to you, you shape it moment by moment. And this habit, when practiced consistently, carves deep grooves in the mind. The subconscious goes to work behind the scenes, noticing opportunities, solving problems, aligning circumstances that would otherwise pass you by. That's the beauty of the brain. It follows the pictures you feed it. And if you feed it vision with conviction, it will begin to create a reality that reflects it. See it, feel it, live it, first in your mind, then in your world. Because all achievement begins with the courage to see the outcome before the world agrees it's possible. Now there's something else Tony Robbins does each morning that many would shy away from. It's uncomfortable, it's jarring, but it's powerful. He steps into a cold plunge, a deliberate shock to the system, not for punishment, but for power, because he understands something most overlook. Comfort does not build strength. Growth does not bloom in ease. To sharpen the mind, you must first awaken the nervous system, and few things do that more quickly and effectively than cold. When he plunges into that icy water, it isn't just about the physical benefits, though they are immense. It's about commanding the mind. It's about stepping into discomfort and choosing to stay, breathing through the resistance. At that moment, Tony is sending a message, not just to his body, but to his subconscious. The message is simple. I am not controlled by my feelings, I lead them. And the science backs it. Cold exposure triggers the release of norepinephrine, a powerful neurotransmitter that boosts alertness, focus, and mood. It sharpens mental clarity, reduces inflammation, and energizes the body. Combined with breath work, long, deliberate, focused breathing, it creates a state of heightened awareness. Your brain wakes up, your energy surges, you step into the day, not as a reactor, but as a creator. But what makes this so significant isn't just the cold, it's the choice. The choice to lean into something hard every day without excuse. That single act of discipline reinforces mental toughness. It strengthens willpower. And most importantly, it cultivates certainty. Not the kind that comes from knowing the outcome, but the kind that comes from knowing you will show up no matter what. Tony doesn't do this because it's trendy. He does it because it works. Because every time he makes that decision, he deepens the groove of mastery. He proves to himself, before the world ever has a chance to test him, that he's already won the battle within. And that kind of victory, the quiet, invisible one that happens before the day begins, that's the kind that builds a life of unstoppable momentum. Master the morning, master the moment. And when you start your day by conquering discomfort, there's nothing the world can throw at you that you won't already be prepared to face. The final truth you must understand, the one that turns all these practices into lasting transformation, is this. It's not what you do once in a while that shapes your destiny. It's what you do daily. Tony Robbins didn't build his mind through occasional effort or bursts of motivation. He built it through consistency, through habits repeated every single day, even when he didn't feel like it, especially when he didn't feel like it. There is magic in repetition, there is power in rhythm, and when you choose to show up each morning with the same commitment, the same rituals, the same intent, you begin to program your mind not just to succeed once, but to sustain success again and again. You don't have to do everything all at once. You don't have to be perfect. What matters most is that you do it again tomorrow and the day after that, because consistency creates identity. And your identity, who you believe you are, is what governs every decision you make. Tony's routine may look intense, but it is not intensity that makes it effective. It is the discipline of doing it, of living it without negotiation, that cold plunge, that visualization, that gratitude, that breath. They're not grand performances, they're simple, repeatable steps. And over time, they create an unstoppable momentum. And the beauty of momentum is this. Once it starts working for you, it carries you. You no longer have to force belief, you become belief. You don't have to search for focus, it becomes your default. Too many people wait for motivation to strike before they act. But the truth is, action births motivation, not the other way around. Tony doesn't wait to feel ready. He acts his way into readiness. He builds the future not in massive leaps, but in small, powerful daily decisions. And when you do something every day, the compound effect takes over. The mind sharpens, the spirit strengthens, the path becomes clear. What you do every day is who you become. And when your habits are aligned with purpose, your future no longer remains a possibility, it becomes a promise.